Hello, this is the beginning of a short series of videos covering what's written in the A2 revision guide for the Cold War by Edexcel. And in these videos I will be reading one page at a time and sending a video on. Section 1. Why did the Cold War between the superpowers emerge in the years to 1953? Ideology and the Cold War. The Second World War led to the decline of the big empires and the rise of two superpowers, the US and the Soviet Union. The superpowers were divided ideologically. They had competing strategic interests, and there was a legacy of mistrust between their leaders. Ideological competition. The two superpowers represented competing economic and political systems. The US political system was democracy, which of course included free and regular elections to allow the people to choose a government from competing political parties, and there was also individual rights, which were protected by the law. In terms of economy, the US was capitalist. The government, in capitalism, the government plays a small role in the economy, which adds to free market economics, and good services are provided by privately owned businesses. In terms of worldview, the US saw free trade as the best way forward. Free trade would include peace and prosperity being created through free trade between nations. The Soviet Union had a single-party government political system. The Communist Party was the only legal party and dominated the government. Political freedoms were restricted and citizens had very little rights to express themselves or to protest. In terms of economy, the Soviet Union had state socialism, which is also called communism, and it included a planned economy. The government controls the country's economy in this system, and goods and services are produced according to a government plan and sold at fixed prices. The Soviet Union's worldview was one of world revolution. They believed that freedom and equality could only be achieved through a world revolution that replaces capitalism with communism. There's also a lot of evidence of ideological conflict leading up to and during the Second World War. Ideology seems to have played a role in East-West relations prior to the Cold War. British and US troops intervened in the Russian Civil War from 1918 to 1920 in an attempt to overthrow the communist government and to prevent it from consolidating its power. Western powers refused to recognise the Soviet Union as a legitimate state and admit it to the League of Nations following the First World War. Also, in the US, during the Red Scare of 1919, US government officials attempted to hunt down and expel left-wing radicals from the US. The Soviet Union's foreign policy from 1917 to 1941 was largely based on the assumption that Western capitalist powers were hostile to communism, and therefore propaganda during this period from 1917 to 1941 was also very anti-capitalist in the USSR. There's also a key interpretation on this page, which is the interpretation of ideological confrontation, which would have caused the Cold War. I'll just read it out quickly. One explanation of the origins of the Cold War focuses on the ideological confrontation between the US and the Soviet Union. According to this interpretation, the Cold War was an inevitable conflict as capitalism and communism were fundamentally antagonistic to one another. Marxism-Leninism, the official ideology of the Soviet Union, explicitly committed the Communist Party to work for a world revolution to overthrow capitalism. Equally, US economic success depended on free trade with the whole of the industrialized world, while the Soviet economic system was based on a rejection of free market and free trade. This interpretation is useful as it explains East-West conflict prior to the Cold War, such as the US and British attempt to overthrow the communist government of Russia during the Russian Civil War of 1918 to 1920. However, It also assumes that the leaders of the two superpowers were entirely guided by their ideologies, when in reality they were prepared to act more pragmatically. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.